So every provider thinking about AI ends up asking us the same two questions. Where does our data go? And can we trust what the AI is telling us? So we're going to answer both today, and I'm going to do that with the help of my two teammates here. So Bron, can you just quickly introduce yourself?
Yes, so Bron Fitzgerald, the head of partnerships at Minikai, recently joined the team and really excited to be here.
Yep, no problems. And Ky, can you just do a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, I'm Ky, co-founder and CTO of Minikai. Yeah.
Thank you. So again, question one, guys. Where does our data go? So Bron, when does this usually come up in a conversation with a prospective customer?
I think it comes up mostly in the second or third meeting, once people have actually understood that and understood the concept of Minikai and understand what we're aiming to achieve. I think people get really excited with the concept of what Minikai can deliver. And it's often when we start to get the chief information officers involved and the IT team involved and the quality and safety team involved that they start to wonder and are curious about keeping the information safe. Yeah.
Better.
Yeah.
Ky, so what actually happens to a customer's data when they're using Minikai?
Yeah, I think to start off with, I think it's really important to actually define what is customer data. And I think that's the point that I think can get really difficult to explain because it's not always clear what is customer data. So we do have this in, our terms and our privacy policy, but essentially we kind of classify things as either company data, which would be data that Minikai owns, or customer data, which is customer data that our customer owns and that we kind of help process and store. So I like to think about this in terms of the types of data. So like as a company, you can think about company data as the data that we use to actually administer the platform to be able to provide access to it. So specifically, I just want to call out that company data includes information around authorized users. So that would be people that would be logging on. So that includes the name of the people logging in, the emails, any sort of analytics in terms of login activity, and then also including to that, like any other types of aggregated telemetry or analytics on the platform that would be de-identified. So anything that then is about what happens on the platform, but in an aggregated and de-identified state. So all of that data is considered company data. Then when we talk about customer data, that's kind of everything else. So you can think about that in terms of, the people being supported, so their plans, assessments, records, but also including any outputs of chats. So when they're on Minikai and they're inputting a message, that message that they're inputting is still customer data, and the response that they receive, so the Mini's response, that is still customer data.
Okay.
So in terms of like defining those, I think it's really important to kind of define those.
Yes.
And then that's why when we talk about data residency, what we like to say is that all customer data is therefore has data residency. So that will be defined by the data region that you select. So we currently have the data region of Australia, and very soon we'll have the data region of the UK. And so all of the customer data is stored and processed within the data region. So that means it's not only just like stored, it also means with processing, so on servers or for minis generating responses, so AI inference, that also occurs within the data region. And then then to be kind of explicit about it, company data, therefore, so as I said, around authorized users, but it can also include things like billing data, as well, like invoicing, and the like, that can be with outside of the data region.
Yes. Okay. So, Bron, given your background, what does that, like, when Ky explains it like that, how would like a CEO or a quality manager kind of consider that?
Yeah, it's a good question, Bet, because I think the most important thing for CEOs is to understand the data residency of their clients, so their customers or their clients. And because of the legislation that sits around where data can be stored in Australia and potentially processed, in the human services sector, the most important thing is that there is data residency. So that data is stored in Australia. So they would be looking for that as the ticket to play. If Minikai couldn't meet that criteria, then we wouldn't have the next conversation. So really critical for moving forward. Yeah.
Thanks, Bron. Okay, guys, question 2. Can we trust what the AI is telling us? And I'm using kind of customer language here. Not like, how can I trust what the minis are generating? It's really customer language. So how can they trust what the AI is telling us? Maybe Bron, here's a good question. Bron, how do customers normally phrase that? How do they normally ask us that question?
They usually say, how can I be sure that the responses I'm getting are accurate?
Right.
How do I know that the AI isn't just making something up?
Yes.
Or that it's not just, pulling something in from another customer's mini or et cetera, et cetera. So lots of different questions around the reliability of the responses that Minikai generates. I think one of the features that we've got, which I love talking about, is the citations and the underlying source data, because that is really the critical piece to highlight that all of the mini responses are grounded in truth, and truth coming from the customer's information. So it's not something that's been made up. It's actually always grounded in the source data. And the citations that we've got in the platform mean that it's really visible. So transparency of where the data's come from is also critical to building that confidence that the data is accurate. I also do talk to people about our evals as well, and the fact that we do evals so that we actually ensure that what's being asked is actually what's being answered, and that we've got a high reliability rate with that. So that's not exactly the same question, but it's related to the confidence that people can have in the answer that's coming back.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe Ky, could you explain a little bit what an eval means?
Yeah, I was just going to do that actually, because I would say like the reason we like to use the term eval, which is short for evaluation, rather than the term test, is that a test is very much kind of very much a unit, and sometimes like only done once. And typically, when you think about testing, a piece of software, or a lot of software is deterministic. And so it's kind of like you test it once and then you're going to get the same output every time. With an AI system, you have constant change in the system occurring because of the types of inputs that you're actually providing. And so therefore, it's more of a probabilistic system. And so this is why we talk about evaluation, because we're actually consistently monitoring and evaluating that the platform is operating as expected and making sure that it doesn't drift away from drift away from the benchmarks that we've set for it. So I'd probably extend that to say that it was built, explicitly for the disability and aged care sectors in very close partnership with quality and governance teams and organizations, working again, hand in hand with clinicians, therapists, people who see this very much as their profession and know what a quality response would be. And we've taken all of that and built up over time that confidence in terms of how the system functions and the feedback loops and the monitoring and evaluation to ensure that the system maintains that integrity.
Nice. Thanks, guys. Thank you very much. If you or anyone would like to talk to us, it'll probably be someone like Bron, our head of partnerships, and the link is in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.